yes, as Larissa talked about, I've been involved in this in multiple different organizations and different roles. And some of the learnings I want to share with you today, a lot of them are consistent, which has been great. I think, when organizations talk about why pursue zero-based budgeting, right? From the experiences that I've had, that, there's three big reasons. There's limited resources. We have, there's always budgets being reduced, and there's a lot of inefficient spending occurring. And sometimes you don't realize it until you really dig into it and see what's out there. Lack of ownership. A lot of the different, in the different organizations I was in, we didn't have clear owners at the line item level on the big ticket line items. There wasn't a lot of visibility in the reporting that was available. Maybe you were underspent in other areas and you were covering up high spends in other areas. So you weren't looking at what was really going on in the details. And so that helped with the, understanding the detailed spend, and then budget owner knowledge transfer, right? A lot of, individuals and organizations move into other roles or leave the organization, and we found that there wasn't a lot of knowledge transfer of this is what the budget is, here's what we spend and why, and here's things that you might need to cut in the future. That wasn't going on. And third was inaccurate budgets, using averages or trends to develop budgets, and making the budgets very top line. So you weren't seeing, you weren't really understanding what needed to be in those budgets to do to invest like we needed to. Next slide, please. So the next, we looked at, some of the steps I, recommend areas to start with is determine the objective early in your planning process. You don't want to start this as you're starting the budget process at the same time, because you've got to do a lot of education. You need to get the organization ready for this and get that mindset started. You want to partner, so before that, you want to develop the strategy and the timeline. That would be next. And you want to make sure you're really thinking how this folds into the budget forecast and working with the different areas of the organization, depending on how you're going to roll it out and with who. Partnering and providing resources. Finance, from our perspective, we help do training, similar to for owners that had not had, experience, giving them some finance 101, work sessions with them if needed, and giving them some reference data. What was historical spending, and very specifically what was in there and why, and to help them unravel that, to understand that before they started building their new budget. We also encouraged everyone to link their investment activity to our strategic plan. That's where we're trying to go. Let's make sure that we're putting investment in initiatives that will get us there. And then introduce and educate this to the organization through all of these different areas. It's a culture and a mindset change. It really is, it's not easy, and I think that's a lot of times why it fails. And I think it's just being positive in that, and I think we did a lot of that up front, where the different functions and cross-functional partners we worked with really wanted to partner, and it was a positive experience. Next slide, please. And so some of the key learnings and successes, budget owners now have a detailed understanding of their budgets. They have a vested interest in their spending, and it drives more thoughtful decisions. We reduced a lot of inefficient spend, forgotten commitments. So maybe someone put a contract or a purchase order or just, a commitment out there, and it was still going on, and it needed to maybe stop, prior to, when you're doing this budget, you could have, that we didn't need to do that anymore. We found duplicate spend across the organization. One area of the organization spending on, for example, different consumer insight data, and another organization, another cross-functional area, they were also paying for the same subscription. So looking at things like that. And then unnecessary spend. If it's not getting us towards our 3-year plan and it's not getting us where we want to go, we need to really question that spend. We implemented a lot of continuous processes. This is done at every budget cycle. We do monthly spend reviews. We keep the focus out there. We work to drive cross-functional learnings, and we communicate that. So communication is critical. You want to share the wins. You want to show the reinvestment. Show, we wanted to fund this. There was no way we were going to be able to do it. However, because of zero-based budgeting and really assessing our budget in this department, we now can fund that initiative, and it gets us where we need to go. So making it positive, I can't stress that enough, and that's really what we did, and that's what really drove our success. Next slide, please. And so beyond zero-based budgeting, the other area that we have moved into is zero-based FP&A. And so not only thinking about the expense items on the P&L, but also looking in other areas like our balance sheet and in our cash flow processes. And understanding, for example, inventory, instead of taking trends and averages, doing a bottom-up build and really understanding what's in your inventory, what needs to be in there, and what it needs to be in the future. And so that's been very successful. And then in the cash flow, we've same thing, looking at very detailed cash flow budgeting and forecasting, understanding what the big ticket items are and the timing, but at a very detailed level, not just glazing over it at a top line and trending it out as we do the forecast. Next slide, please. And so the 5 key steps that I would recommend that have been very successful, and a lot of them are similar to the learnings and successes that Tom referenced in his presentation, is develop your strategy. What do you want to accomplish, and which areas or functions will participate? Possibly you want to do it in one functional area only to start, or one region, and you can determine that. You can roll it out to the entire organization, but each organization is very different, and you have to figure out what works best for your resources and timing and the ability to change the culture and the mindset. Developing the tools, the process, and the timeline. You want to develop the different reporting and tools, and Larry's going to talk about that in his presentation to give us some more perspective on how to look at reporting and dashboards and bucketing the data. And you want an ongoing process. And then again, communicate to the organization. When you launch it, communicate it, do continuous updates. And then providing the leadership and support. You want to make sure that the finance and any other areas of the organization show the leadership and support. So finance can provide the detail and work sessions to help partner, but senior leadership also needs to walk the talk, as we've talked about, and support it. And then communicate. I can't say this enough. Communicate the wins, reinvestment successes. Look at what we were able to do because of this. And share the learnings. Help the other areas of the organization see what you went through or some key learnings that you could share with them. And, and again, I think that, we'll talk more about it in Larry's presentation, and then take the learnings that we had from Tom's.